It's Do Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine. You're on with this Do Time with Pastor Steph. How are you this morning? That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, where were you last week? Last week we started off shaking the Monday morning blues with the Do Time crew, and we talked about the common traits of a person who chronically attracts negativity. Oh my goodness. Yes, we talked about those who, they feel that emptiness inside. Yeah, when you feel empty, it's very hard for you to put out the vibes and the energy that is going to take to draw positive people. So therefore you end up drawing, a lot of negativity. We talked about the people who have low mood, who are depressed, who have thoughts of negativity. Well, definitely. If that's the case, then that means that that's what you're definitely putting out. And if you are thinking negative things, it is very, very, very common for you to speak negative things. And, people are going to be able to read your mood by your body language. People are going to be able to tell that you're depressed by the things that you say, you do, your expressions, like I said, even in your body language, there are going to be signals that, you're just not feeling up to it. And you know what? Unfortunately, positive people are really not going to want to be around you. And that's difficult. That's difficult because then you try to figure out why you're not pulling in more positivity. Well, you know what? Since this is a Christian-based broadcast, we had to talk about the flip side of that. And how do we help those who are negative, those who are, low in mood, those who are depressed? And, the Do Time crew came up with some great things. And one of the things was communication. How do you communicate with people? Now, here's the thing. If you are a Christian person, your primary goal is to attract and to definitely get out there and disciple God's people. Yeah. So there's no way in the world you're going to be guaranteed to come across positive people all the time. You're going to come across those people who have that depression, that low mood, that, conversation of negativity. How do you deal with that? Well, your own communication can help to combat that in and of itself. Your own positivity can definitely help to combat that in and of itself. What you put out is going to definitely help others who are not quite feeling what you're feeling. Yeah, you have the ability to do that. Remember in the Bible when, the people were becoming kind of discouraged because the disciples weren't getting the job done. Well, Jesus said, well, the reason why is because your lack of faith. Well, how big is your faith? Does your faith lead you and is so big that it helps you to get out here and to help to get those people who are drawing the negativity kind of out of that bag? That's our job. Now, You try and you know what? I love what Pastor KL said last week. Some people, they're there to just plant the seed. There are some people there to actually water. Yes. So everybody ain't got the same job. So if we all work and do our part, now unfortunately, those of us who plant the seeds, we don't necessarily see the growth. Yeah. Sometimes we've moved on and then the growth is behind us. But make sure you do your job, okay? All righty. Well, we had our switch tip last week, and stay true to who you are. Oh, stay true to who God says you are, being more precise. Yes, that is definitely what we just got finished talking about. If you are one of those people who draw negative people, who attract negative people, that's not who God says you are. Nope. Especially if you are someone who's supposed to be a Christian person. If you start seeing a bunch of negativity around you, then you're going to have to start thinking about, hey, am I the individual who's attracting that negativity? Now, why is that coming up now when we're talking about stay true to who God says you are? Because you are responsible for staying true to who God says you are. No one else can help you with that. No one else can turn you into that. God is not going to do but so much in your life. There is some portion of that you are going to have to do. So stay focused. Stay focused and stay focused on who God says you are. Well, we had our socially conscious segment with our girl Vivian, and we talked about those drivers who are going to get snagged on the Verrazano, the RFK, the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Yes, if you are a speedster, they call you, and you can't get control of that lead foot you got, you will be eating some tickets starting at $50 all the way to $100, and including your fees. Yes, any penalties that will grow when you don't pay those bills on time. We talked about those squatters and how not to handle them. No, we are not going to move in like one individual did. He pulled in his wife, a couple of friends, thought he was going to outdo the squatters. Well, no, they are professionals. They have a lot more stamina than you do. And he ended up paying over $4,000 just to get them out. Can you imagine? Can you? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's how it goes down sometimes. We try to be the biggest winner and we end up being the biggest loser. Well, he ended up getting his house back. So I guess he ended up not being the loser after all. Well, our men on Friday took us out here with some thought-provoking, oh my goodness, conversation. And we talked about Diddy, and his mama being right there for that very first day of trial, and the fact that she was going to be back there over and over and over again in that same seat, supporting her son. Would you be the parent? That was one of the questions. Would you be one of those parents that would be a diehard parent and sit through some of those graphic and gruesome details that Cassie, as well as anybody else, may have given up to this point? Yeah, because some nasty stuff really ended up coming out. The girls couldn't take it. It's twin girls. At one point, they had to get up. Well, they're also younger, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take and hear and absorb. Someone you love being accused of so many, not just things, but so many things that are just ugly and nasty. And it's only so long people gonna keep saying these things that you're gonna keep believing that this stuff is not true. Because listen, everybody ain't lying. Everybody is not lying. What part of this is actually true? So all the men said, hey, I'm in there. I got to see and hear for myself. I don't want to get this, third hand, fifth hand through the media. I want to hear for myself. I want to show my son, my daughter that I'm supporting. So it was a really good conversation on Friday to take us out of here. So I pray that you had a wonderful, refreshing restful weekend, and we are back here today shaking the Monday morning blues all over again. Yep, it is time to start this process all over again. So good morning to you. Welcome to a new week, giving God thanks that we are here. We are refreshed. We are just rearing to go. And we got some conversation to be had this morning. Trust me, I got some interesting news to talk about. All right, so let's get this party started. Go ahead and get that healthy breakfast. We talked about that oatmeal. We talked about those sardines. We talked about that pomegranate juice. 3 powerful things to get the job done. Go ahead and tell somebody that it's Stew Time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
Listening out there, share this video with somebody that you care about. Not only do you have to stop smoking, but you also have to detox. And let me explain why. So if you're new here, you just open up your app, you're going to find out some interesting things. I know you're probably smoking right now, but let me tell you exactly what you're doing to your lungs. So existing inside of your lungs are these things called alveoli. They're in everybody's lungs. And alveoli are responsible for putting oxygen inside of your blood. Without that, you won't exist. You won't be here anymore. So you see this right here? This is called the alveolus gas exchange. Anytime you put anything other than oxygen inside of your alveolus gas exchange, mucus and inflammation develops inside of the alveoli. Then your alveoli will begin to look like this. You see how this is callous, dark, and black? Yeah, once that happens in your lungs, you're going to develop something called smoker's lung. And that's going to look something like this. You see how this is is dark and callous and black? You don't want your lungs to look like that. You want your lungs to look like mine, teeming with life, vibrant, and pink. Now, there's a solution. You can stop smoking. Of course, that's the number one solution. But also, along with with quitting smoking and discontinuing smoking, you also want to detox. This part is extremely important because you want to help your body.
Good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Stew Time with Pastor Steph, and we are shaking the Monday morning blues. Yep, all over again. We're back here to start the process all over again. Now, here's the thing. I heard a long time ago that the day you stop smoking, your body begins to heal itself. Yeah. So those pictures that doctor was showing you in the video, that stuff is real. Smoking is one of the things that once you stop, your body already begins to repair itself. So listen, stop abusing your body. Now, whether it's smoking or anything else you're doing that you're not supposed to be doing, please make sure you stop. Okay. Listen, we got to be around for one another. We got a job to do. All right. Well, I want to know who's in the room so I can give you a hearty good morning. And the only way I'm going to know is if you check in. So make sure you do so. Okay. All right. Hey, good morning, Terrence. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I sure hope you had a wonderful weekend. And we got our boy Serge. Good morning, Serge. How was work? Oh my goodness gracious. I know you were just kind of trying to get yourself back together yesterday to go back to work. So we're just glad that you are able to join us this morning. Good morning, Kitty. The men were up bright and early this morning. Yeah, good morning. All right. Hey, Miss Charlene. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Always glad to see your name up on that screen. Yeah. And we got our girl Tamika checking in, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you in a little while. Okay. All right. Well, we got our tip this morning. Now, our tip is a little different. And for some reason, I think it has something to do with some of the food that we eat. You know, we normally get our health tip. Well, we're getting another kind of health tip this morning. We're talking about, they say, these household items that you should probably replace immediately. All right, ASAP, like yesterday. Now, I don't know what's on this list, okay, but we're going to find out right now. Your cutting boards. Oh, I could probably figure that out. They say that slicing on a cutting board is a good thing for you to do, but they say it's safer to make a salad on a toilet seat. Whoa, because of all that bacteria. Yeah. You know, they suggest that. Now I want to see if they still keeping up with this. They say when it comes to cutting boards, we should have 2 separate cutting boards. And it should be made of a certain type of material. Because some materials carry bacteria a little longer than others. And regardless of how you clean it, how well you clean it, it just doesn't become clean enough, or you keep it in your house too long. The other thing is we need to keep 2 separate cutting boards because you're cutting meat and you're cutting your vegetables and your fruit, and the 2 shall never meet raw. So let's see if they are keeping up with that. Well, they say you couldn't track down the original source of where all of this bacteria is coming from on your cutting board, but they say all plastic and wooden cutting boards wear out over time, and once the cutting boards become excessively worn or develop hard to clean grooves, they should be discarded. So the information is still the same. So they're saying whether yours is a wood, plastic, or glass cutting board, you need to give it more than a quick wipe down after each use. If you have a wooden cutting board, you should disinfect it with bleach. Wooden bleach, okay? They say, and treat it with mineral oil. Wow. They say if you have a plastic cutting board, you can pour boiling water over it and toss it in the dishwasher to sanitize it. So you don't want to get that cross contamination. So make sure you have 2 different cutting boards. Yeah. Because you may think you're cleaning it, but you just may not be cleaning it well. Okay. What else? Plastic food containers. Wow. Okay. They say that food containers, can become a sanitary risk when it comes to bacteria and pathogens when they're scratched up or otherwise damaged. So they say this is especially true of containers with a rubber seal. It's important to clean them very, very well. So put them in the dishwasher if possible and let them completely dry before closing them and tossing them back into your cabinet. Okay. They say if you have any containers that are stained or worse, if they are really worn, consider replacing them. If you've had to steer clear of, make sure they say you're steering clear of those ones that are not BPA free. Okay. And definitely if you have those, toss them out. All right. They say they're easier to clean and sanitize. They're sturdier if you have them without the BPA because they don't have other things in them that will carry over. Wow, even after you clean them. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, yeah. Make sure you get those BPA because they say those are the ones that are safe to put in your microwave. Okay? All righty. Toilet brushes. They say toilet brushes have an unenviable task, and you know what that is. Yeah, getting that toilet cleaned. And they say it is filled with E. coli. They say that toilet brushes are more of an aesthetic issue. You don't usually touch the brush portion, thank God. But they say it still goes through a lot of wear and tear, whether you see it or not. They say that you can generally wait until your toilet brush smells before you need to replace it. But basically, you can kind of look at it and tell if it looks beat up. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Okay? They say replace twice a year. Replace your toilet brush twice a year. And there's no like right toilet brush or wrong toilet brush. Just get a new toilet brush. All right? Okay. Non-stick pans. We're talking about the things that are in your house that you need to get rid of right away. Non-stick pans are on this list. They say even with vigilant care, your non-stick pans can become hazardous, and the heating instructions are specific, but especially when you're constantly using the wrong utensils to cook with and it scratches up your non-stick pans. So they say that non-stick coating can come off and become definitely toxic. So you don't want to get any cancer or hormonal issues from non-stick pans. So if you see that your non-stick pans are no longer in the best condition, and that's unscratched, completely unscratched. Once it starts becoming scratched up, get rid of them. Okay? All righty. Let's see. What else? Kitchen sponges. Yeah, you gotta change those bad boys on a regular basis. They say that researchers found that bacteria really hangs out in those sponges, and the bacteria is similar to those found in feces. Woo! All right. So they say boiling or microwaving a sponge may even promote the growth, of certain bacteria if the sponges have been used for a long time. Okay. So if they're just relatively new and you throw them in the microwave, that's one thing. But if they've been used for a long time, get rid of them. All right. They say, make sure that you check out the fact that E. coli and salmonella really live in your sponges after a certain amount of time. So you should change it every week or two. So we try to change ours a little on a regular basis. All right. They say coffee maker filters. Definitely replace those immediately. Yeah. They say that give your morning helper a good cleaning. They say soak the water reservoir in hot soapy water and replace the filter immediately. Plain and simple as that. Wow, that was quick and easy. Pillows. Wow. All right. They say swap out your pillows every 2 years. Wow. Okay. Now, they say your pillows can become home to millions of dust mites that could leave you sneezing and wheezing. So we've got a lot of dead skin cells and sometimes even mold. Yeah, from your sweat, saliva, humidity, and other moisture sources. So they say, make sure you get a pillow with medium firmness. They say that pretty much makes a nice sleeping, pillow. And they say allergy proof fabric is what we need to be looking for, because that prevents dust, pollen, and other household allergens from collecting in your pillow. All right. So they say 1 to 2 years, change your pillows. All right. Shower and curtain liners. All right. Okay. So they say because they stay damp for so long, and sometimes some stay damp even longer based on your environment in your bathroom. All right. And they say make sure you keep them stretched out so that they can dry properly and they don't get mold or mildew or bacteria up in it. So they say replace it every 6 months to a year, probably a little more than that. And they say, especially if you live in high humidity areas. Wow. Okay. They say you can also spray it with some soap scum resistant spray. Do you see those sprays on the TV all the time? Yeah, just spray it down. All right. And they say it can last 4 to 6 months before you really need to change it, but you could probably change it, more than that. Kitchen towels. They say there's some leeway in replacing some of these kitchen towels. They say especially if you have a certain fabric that is used. They say that just like sponges, E. coli and bacteria don't you wash your towels? Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. They say 1 to 2 years is a good replacement, but make sure you wash them in hot water. Okay. And you are definitely dealing with raw meat, poultry, seafood, or eggs, which carry bacteria. So make sure you replace them on a regular basis. All righty. So those are the things that we definitely need to get rid of in our kitchen. So let's go over that list again, just in case you missed anything on this list. Make sure we replace our cutting boards immediately. Make sure we replace plastic food containers. They're talking about if they're beat up. They're beat up and they scratched up and they got all kinds of stains and stuff in them. Get rid of them. Toilet brushes. Make sure you get rid of those nonstick pans if you scratch them up. All right, they are toxic once that happens. Make sure you get rid of those kitchen sponges after a while. Make sure you clear out those coffee maker filters. Make sure you get rid of those pillows, those shower curtain liners, and the shower curtains, by the way. They say make sure you keep them washed. Kitchen towels. Make sure you keep those things constantly in rotation, especially if you're the type of individual that don't like cleaning these things. Yeah. They last longer if you clean them, but if you don't. Now, the kitchen curtains I just saw, especially if you use plastic, not kitchen curtains, I'm sorry, bathroom curtains, especially if you use the plastic ones. Yeah. If you use cloth ones, just wash them and they can last. They can last for years. But if you're using plastic ones, bye. All righty. Woo! Let's see what the news is talking about. All righty. So we got some dumb news this morning. Yeah. If nothing else shakes the Monday morning blues, dumb news will do so. So let's see if we got some comments. All right. Terrence says, I believe that with the cutting board. Yes. Yeah, cutting boards carry a lot of germs. And you know what's scary about cutting boards? People don't always clean things the same way. So one person cleans one way, one person cleans another way. Some person uses warm water, somebody else uses hot water. You could definitely come up with a lot of germs on cutting boards. And oh, Terrence says heard that about the pans too, especially those nonstick pans. Yeah, they say we really got to be very, very careful with those nonstick pans. Make sure you buy the right utensils to cook with, because that is the key to making sure those things are preserved. Okay, and who wants to keep replacing a nonstick pan? These things are not cheap, you know. All right. All righty. Thank you, Terrence. All right, so we're talking about our dumb news today. Out in Mississippi, you have a robbery suspect who wasn't very smart. So you have this woman who out in Mississippi, 34-year-old Jasenia, who decided earlier this month to rob a Dollar General. All right. And she ended up getting into an argument with one of the people in the store when she went up in there demanding money with her weapon. All right. So she actually leaves the store. They call in the police. So the police are there and they're doing, their investigative thing. And Jasenia returns because during the melee of her arguing with the employee, she made a mistake and dropped her cell phone and decided she wanted to go back to check out whether the cell phone was still there or not. Well, needless to say that clearly her face wasn't covered during the robbery, and they recognized her. Dumb news. Why would you go back? Why would you go back? Now, one might say, well, you know what? If you don't go back, they pick up your cell phone. They got all your information. They're going to find out who you are. Well, don't you think that'll happen once you go back in? And the person that you were arguing with sees you, because that's what normally happens when you argue with a person. You're looking at one another face to face, right? So either way, stupid Jasenia, 34 years old, they say that she's in the adult detention center on a $100,000 bond. Now look at Jasenia. She ain't getting out no time soon, because she ain't nowhere near reaching this $100,000 bond. So she's stuck. And a whole lot of people going to get to know her face. All right. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. What else we talking about? All righty. So, I don't know. We're going to call this Dumb Monday. Shaking the Dumb blues. All right. You have another instance of another dumb. Well, this was a bombing out in Palm Springs. And this is really interesting because I have not heard of a group of people who are called anti-ideology. Yeah. Have you? Tell me, let me know. Okay, well, listen. These are the people that believe that no one should have children. Yeah. And they actually attack like clinics and things like that. Yeah. Well, they say that the investigators are going through social media posts from the person who they believe is the suspect. And they have seen some indication that this young man has been actually promoting the fact that he feels that no one should have children. And he has been dealing with depression and relationship issues. And there was an explosion on the outside of this building. It was a car explosion, actually, on Saturday at the American Reproductive Center's fertility clinic. All right. And they say that it's not the only building on the block. It has another medical facility on the block. They say the car exploded in the parking lot next to the building. And no members of the clinic, thank God, were harmed. And they say all the eggs, the embryos, and reproductive materials remain fully secure and undamaged. All right. And they have really been kind of protecting these buildings because more and more of these people are popping up. These people who feel that no one should have children. Now, did somebody have you? I'm a little lost here. I don't understand these people. Someone had you. And if you are happy to be here, because these people are not necessarily complaining about life. This particular young man just at this particular time is having some relationship issues and going through some depression. But they're saying based on social media posts, this is not his life. And all the people who are, these anti-somebody ideology people, they're not necessarily unhappy with life. They just feel that nobody should have children. Well, who gets to determine that? I don't know. Well, the FBI, needless to say, is involved anytime there's a bomb or anything like that, So the FBI is involved. What else are we talking about here today? All righty. Boy. Now, we're talking about, some people don't like apps on their phones, and some people don't like to, get involved with going through a lot of apps. They don't like to, a lot of companies are requiring you to put apps on your phone, like in certain insurance companies and things like that. And some of these companies, you can't actually get to them on just like a regular, what do you call it? If you go find their website. No, you have to have the app. Well, there's one individual who is really upset because he put an app on his phone. I'm going to get the name of the app, called Life 360. Now, this particular app is supposed to monitor like your driving. It's supposed to definitely like give you like a map, like a GPS. And he thought he was doing one thing, and come to find out, when he actually went to apply for insurance, car insurance, that they were able to increase his insurance premium because they said that he was recklessly driving. And he was like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Well, the app is not just for what you think it is. It's actually monitoring how you're driving, the speed, and where you're going. It's actually sending back the information to these companies, to these insurance companies. And here's the other thing. Come to find out, after doing some digging, not just him, but when he started making the complaint and they started, like some other companies actually started doing some research, they found out that these insurance companies were paying the apps to send them the information. Ooh, yeah. So see, this is why people don't want apps and stuff on their phone, because they don't trust it. Oh, we got a check-in from our girl, Vivian. Good morning, Vivian. And we got a check-in from our girl, Pastor Kim. Hey, Pastor Kim. Hope that you're doing well out there in Michigan. Oh, it's so wonderful to hear from you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for stopping by. Well, they are really hot because they're saying that this Life 360 is a popular location tracking app, and it's supposed to be safe for families and a peace of mind. Because what's happening is a lot of parents are putting this app on their children's phones, like young people, like if young people are driving and things like that. Yeah, they're putting this on their children's phones, and they're thinking it's one thing, and they're putting it on their phone, because you've got to have it on your phone so you can help track them. But it's actually tracking you. So out in Texas, there's an attorney who is actually suing. Yeah. So this is a lot more popular than people think. So Allstate Insurance is one of those people who's being sued because they have paid for this embedded tracking software to go into not only Life 360 but Gas Buddy. Do you have Gas Buddy on your phone? So they say that this software allegedly monitors users' real-time location and movement without clearly disclosing the companies that have paid to get this information and who's using it against you when you go to apply for insurance quotes. Yeah, they're actually able to get a whole lot of information about you that you don't even know. And they say millions of people, millions of Americans were onto this app. This app was on their phone. And now they have Allstate and some other insurance companies who are now being sued because of this. Wow. They say a Tina Marie Johnson also reported that her insurer's safe driving app penalized her for her car's automatic braking, which is a safety system that's on her car, but she can't control it. But they're penalizing her because, according to the app, it's being used. And she said she was also flagged for erratic driving while using a mobility scooter in a grocery store. So that means it's picking up even when you're not in a car, but you're in some level of a motorized vehicle. Child, as Mariah would say. So they say that what you can do as a consumer, first of all, is don't put this stuff on your phone. They say make sure that when you actually, if you have to, put it on your phone, do your research and find out if these apps have been registered to have this other stuff on there that you have no business, that have no business on your phone. All right. Ooh-wee. All right. We got one more story. One more piece of news to talk about. Woo! Let's see what's going on here. Hello. All righty. All right. And last but not least, woo, baby. Talk about some problems. So, Who likes this UFC fighting? Well, they have some problems because there's one of those fighters who was just about to have their main event. So they've trained, they've gone through all of the process of, there's a lot of legal work to get done before you have these boxing matches and these fights. And we don't really even realize that they go through so much. Well, they actually were 30 minutes before they were actually gonna go up for the main event. They stopped the fight because of a cold sore that was on one of the fighters. Now, they didn't say why they were stopping the fight, but the fighter himself got on social media afterwards and he said this: "I never thought that herpes would take me out of a fight." Why people put their business out there? Now, I guess he figured eventually it would come out because, see, remember now, the other fighter is relying on fighting, and they may not actually disclose what's going on, but I guess eventually he figured out if that fighter found out why he lost all that money, he'd spill the beans. Yeah, well, here's the deal. So periodically, as they're registered to fight, so if you're gonna fight today, that going back periodically, you have to go for medical checkups. So clearly he passed, but 30 minutes before the fight, they actually go through another checkup, and they found a cold sore on his lip. Well, the cold sore was a herpes outbreak, and because of that, he was not able to fight because the cold sore is extremely contagious. And that's what he meant when he said, "I never thought that herpes would take me out of a fight." So they had to stop the fight. Now, I remember this happening, when HIV and AIDS became popular. All of the basketball players and football players and all of those, the contact, sports and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of them went for like life insurance policies, and it was found out and they could not play anymore. And they had to reveal why, not to the public, and that's how we found out about Magic Johnson. Yeah, he went to apply for that life insurance. Well, baby, they doing the same thing with these UFC fighters. They are not allowing them to fight, even to the degree of within a half hour up to your fight, they are canceling the fight. So can you imagine if you didn't made all of these promises and you didn't got into this debt? Because because remember, both fighters get money. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking he may have told, because he may have figured, well, by the time this other fighter finds out why the fight was canceled, I just may not be able to keep this a secret anymore. So yeah, so life. Something that's like so personal. Nobody wants to tell, if they have herpes. The only person you really need to tell is the person that you romantically involved with. Yeah, well, he had to spill the beans. He spilled the beans on himself. Let me see what's going on in this chat room. Terrence says, Now, why go back? Why not have a mask on? Johnny needs a lot of help when he looks like a kid himself. Yes, both of them dumb. They need a dumb jail. Yeah, you're talking about, the one in Mississippi. Why would you go up in there? You ain't got no mask. All these places got cameras and you don't have a mask on? Don't know. Because at least if you went back for the cell phone and you actually found it, nobody would know that it was you unless they heard your voice or something like that. But what a dope. All right. And Terry says, wow, I know about those apps. I was not getting that app. It's a lot of them out here too. Yeah, there's a lot of apps that have a lot of things running actually on your device that you really don't know about. And we did not give a shout out to our ladies who hold it down in the morning, who keep us running live on Facebook and YouTube. Let's say good morning to our girls, Shantice and Anika. Sorry. Hey there, good morning. Thank you so much for keeping us running. Anika says Geico has it also. They have it as a part of their plan for lower discounts if you drive well. And I did hear that. I know somebody who they have certain features on their phone apps as well as in their cars that help. If they put these things on their car, they will definitely save money on their insurance plans. And Shanti says doctors say unfortunately herpes can't be detected unless there's an outbreak. Yes. So that's why had there not been an outbreak, he would have been able to fight. 30 minutes. Wow. Tara says, I agree with that. You can't fight with that. It's a mess. Let's say good morning to our girl Tamika and see what she's got to say this morning about our stories. Good morning.
Monday morning. How are you this morning?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for our Monday morning jingle. How are you?
I am doing well.
That's good. Well, we're talking about dum-dums this morning, the dum-dum criminals. And we've got this Mississippi 34-year-old Jasenia who did not wear a mask when she went in, excuse me, to rob Dollar General. You know she wouldn't have made a good bank robber. She can't even rob Dollar General properly. And she dropped her phone and decided to go back in without the mask again. Well, she can't go back in with the cops with the mask, but that's how they found out who she was. Dumb or what, Tamika?
Seriously, dumb. And you already know with a name like Jasenia, you already know what side of the fence she's on. You know, super smart. She figured, oh well, it's dollar. You know, it's one of those dollar stores. They're not gonna recognize me. Why? Why would you not think that? You know, and then my thing of all the places to rob, why there? You start rock bottom and then go to the top. Is that what you're doing? Maybe that's your first hit. You start lower and then you go higher and higher. But of all places, and then you lose your phone. Why would you even have your phone to begin with? You know, why is that necessary? I mean, you can't be severed from your phone while you're handling this stupid business to begin with. If you hadn't had the phone to begin with, this never would have happened.
Oh my goodness.
But again, not so smart. Brilliant.
No, ma'am. What do you think about these apps on your phone that are secretly, you know, not only running things that you don't know that they're running, but actually they're paying these providers to give them information about people. So when you actually go for your insurance quotes, they got information on you already.
They knew what they were doing when they created these apps, you know, and it's sad. I'm one of those ones that don't really care too much for apps. You know, people ask, you got this, you got that. I'm like, no. You know, how do you do it? For the most part, you know, I go online and do what I need to do. You know, I really don't like these apps. I have a friend of mine who cannot function without apps. You know, he's got an app for this, he's got an app for that. And I'm like, no. You know, and the other thing that I don't like is that a lot of times when you have these apps, they won't allow you to use it unless your location services are on. So you have to, they have to track you all day, all night. So that is something really discouraging to me because I don't like for you to know where I am. Not that, you know, I'm a criminal or anything, but why is that important?
It's privacy, right?
You know, like there's a, you know, a coupon app, you know, that I have, you know, and they wanted you, in order for you to get greater points, you know, they wanted to track you. And I was like, nope. You'll get this little receipt. Why does it matter what, you know,
Right.
Why does it matter where I am? You know, if I'm giving you a
Right.
receipt, it tells you where I've been. You don't need to know where I
Right.
am every hour of the day. And there are so many different apps that do that, you know. And so when I see something that tells me that you want to locate me, you know, day in and day out, you know, that's another thing that you can do. I don't know if these apps, because I'm not, you know, I don't have that access, you know, if it's one of those things where you can turn your location services off, you know, that could be a benefit to you. You know, when you told me about, you know, they catch you on these the mechanism that you use when you're not walking, you know, inside like Walmart, those little machines. I couldn't believe that, you know, and I was thinking about it. It makes me laugh because I think back to when Al had his knee surgery and he was riding in one of those things and hitting like every other. When I tell you, I was picking up stuff. I pick up stuff on this row. He would go past and then hit another row, and I'm like, "Are you doing this on purpose at this point?" Because I mean, there's no manual. You gotta kind of wing it. You gotta figure it out.
Right.
You know? And
Right.
how to be caught on something like that, you know, it tells you anything that you do, as long as you've got your phone, and we have our phones
Yep.
all day long.
Every time. Yep. All
You know,
the
even
time.
I've seen people even in their own homes. You take your phone to go to you're just going to the bathroom. What can happen from the living room to the bathroom? You know, and that's
Girl,
one
you
thing
scared to miss that call. That's right.
That's
right.
one thing that they're counting on, the fact that you're always going to have your phone on you.
Yep. Yep. And they're able to dictate and tell everything. Oh, we got to check in from Miss Willie. Hey, Miss Willie, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, stopping by. Yeah, this is a lot, you know, where they, again, if your phone is even in your pocket, you know, when you leave your house, right there and then, you know, this is how they're able to monitor everything because your phone is on you. So this is crazy. This is crazy. Now, what about this UFC and these other sporting events where they're monitoring your health and they're periodically checking your health, even to the point of 30 minutes before the actual main event? They had to, you know, cancel the fight because he had a cold sore, and they said, nope, sorry, your herpes outbreak, you cannot fight here because it is too contagious. What's your thought?
I think it is important, you know, especially for the person that you're fighting with, because, you know, I don't have to tell you, you know, but the person that you're fighting with, you know, their health is affected, you know, and I think all of this transpired due to the pandemic. You know, I remember my own workplace where, you know, you had people coming in, they knew they were sick, they coughing their head off, they step outside, the cough, come back into the office and pretend like nothing happened, you know. And so me as the person that's fighting you, my health is affected. So, you know, I think that it is a benefit that you should check them way, you know, in the future, as well as right before a half an hour. Yeah, I think that's important. So important.
It is. It actually is. And again, especially with something that's so contagious, you really need to protect all parties involved. So, Sir says, I have it to track me. It's talking about the app. I have it to track me when I'm using the app, not track me 24/7. The reason is because it helps me find the deals faster in the location you're in. Okay. Oh. And Miss Willie says, do you know the number of people who have never been vaccinated? Yeah, I'm one. Yeah, I've never been vaccinated, Miss Willie.
There you go.
And Tamika too. So yeah, we don't have. Now, what vaccination are you talking about, Miss Willie? We're talking about this herpes outbreak. So are you talking about COVID? Okay, let us know. All right, let's talk and say thank you so much for joining us this morning, Tamika. Let's say good morning to our Pastor KL.
What it do,
Good morning, Pastor KL. Wow.
What it do? How you doing?
I am well, thank you, Pastor KL. You are losing a nice amount of weight, must I say?
I'm bringing sexy back. That's all. I'm bringing sexy back.
Oh my
I'm trying to wear the Speedos this summer.
We don't care nothing about that as long as the word of God is coming out your mouth. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good, good. Very good. So we got the Mississippi Dum Dum this morning who robbed the Dollar General without a mask and dropped her phone and decided to go back in Dollar General while the police were there investigating the crime. How does
Yeah,
a criminal walk up in the crime scene?
that wasn't a criminal. That was a crackhead. You know, that wasn't a criminal. Criminals
Oh
don't
my
think like
goodness
that.
gracious.
Criminals don't think like that. Crackhead thinks like that. Because
Oh
had it been me, had I been the criminal, when I got home, I would have reported my phone stolen. I just robbed you. I can buy a new phone.
Right.
So that was a crackhead move. You know what I mean? So all the crackhead contacts was in the phone, and she needed a good hit. That's what that was.
Yeah. You know, Pastor KL, it's amazing because you go and you rob a Dollar General. There's a possibility you did not have enough money to buy yourself a new phone.
Well, let me tell you something. Don't count out the dollar stores. Them dollar stores make a lot of money on a daily basis. Their deposits are quite healthy on a daily basis. Some of them dollar stores have to do 2 or 3 deposits intermediately. Them stores make a lot of money. They make a lot of money.
Okay.
So depending on where that store, so you got to remember something that most Dollar Generals and Family Dollars and Dollar Trees, they're in areas where people have to walk. You know what I mean? Or it's around a lot of projects and stuff like that. So they kind of need this area. And a lot of the people that are in projects, they shop at this store 3 or 4 times a day. Because remember, they're walking, so they can't carry all the stuff at one time. You know, and then if you have a staple store like a Piggly Wiggly or grocery store next door, when they leave that grocery store and they got good food stamps, they come into your store for the snacks.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for the information. All righty. So we're talking about these apps that's on your phone that are not just giving you the information that you're looking for, but it's actually they're being paid to give information to these insurance companies and things like that. And when these people are now going to apply for insurance, they got a whole list of stuff that's against them.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me. I'd be paying $1,000 a month because I drive quite fast. So I drive so fast the app wouldn't be able to keep up. They'd automatically say give him a ticket. You know what I mean? Raise his insurance. He's a menace to society. So I know not to do no crazy like that. I'm setting my own self up.
You're super speeder like Vivian's been talking about on her socially conscious segment.
Well, okay, so look at it. I'm from New York. And you have to drive aggressively in New York to get around, especially if you're in the city. So that's what I do here. And when the cops stop me, they say, how fast you was going? I said 75. Said, well, the speed limit is 65. I said, but it says 95 north. So I'm thinking I'm okay. So it's all right.
You know what? I just can't. I'm not paying you for that joke, Pastor KL. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Paying for that one. I'm not paying for that joke. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, the UFC fighters. I'm so afraid to bring up this with you.
Wow. It must be Wild Wednesday.
See, with Pastor Jeff, you don't know what's going to come out of his mouth, but he is so oblivious. With you, everything is calculated, like the joke you just told. So, UFC fighters.
I'm not going to say nothing about being in the closet. How about that? like Pastor Jeff said.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pastor KL. Thank you.
I think it's necessary, because at the end of the day, yeah, I want my money, but I also want to live. You know what I mean? And if you're keeping me from living, that's a problem. If you're a potential threat, it's bad enough you're gonna be beating me in my face. You know what I mean? But now we're gonna have a disease that's gonna take me out too. No, I'd be okay. I mean, I know I trained for a long time, and I wanted this money because a lot of times you've already spent the money before you got the money.
Right. That's what I was
You know
saying.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But listen, I'd have to take that bite in the bullet, because you mess around and do a Mike Tyson and bite my ear or kiss me in the face, then I'm done. It's not gonna work out.
Yeah, that's I agree with you, which is why I was saying, imagine you've gotten into all this debt, you've put your mouth out there, you just spent this money, and now you are messed up because 30 minutes before the fight is due to go up, they got canceled. So yeah, this is a lot of heartbreak, unfortunately. But I agree. Rather be safe than sorry later. That I'd rather err on the side of safety. All righty. Terrence says she robbed the Dollar General. She can't buy no phone, but you've already clarified that. Miss Willie says, I worked in the medical field for years. Some people refuse treatment, not wanting to treat the issue, but will come to the doctors. Outbreaks happen. Yes. Okay. And true, Pastor, but they really obtain your info for their use. Yeah, that's what this is about. They're putting these apps, they're laying out this information on these apps so that they can use this information against you. So you gotta be real careful about the stuff that you put on your phone. All right, so I was tossed between relationship dilemmas and talking about one particular topic. So I think I'm going to go with relationship dilemmas this morning. And here's was a very interesting scenario. All right. So, Pastor Kale, put your phone on mute for me, please. All right. Thank you. So, this guy, he has a dilemma. He says that he's been building his financial stability for years, and he's really come up. He's gotten out of debt. He's saved quite a bit of money. He's become financially stable. He has a good job. He's done everything he needs to do to make sure that he is successful. So he is engaged to be married, and they have started paying for this wedding. And the wedding is pretty costly, but he doesn't mind. He doesn't mind at all. He values who he's going to marry. He doesn't mind putting out all this money for the wedding. And again, at the last minute, he has just found out that his fiance is $82,000 in debt with her credit cards. He's asked her to sign a prenup because he wants to protect himself. And she has refused. And they are right in the mouth of the wedding now. He's been taking his time to convince her, and she has not taken the bite. She refuses to sign the prenup. She says that her debt has nothing to do with his. But we know that not to be, the case. But he wants to know, what should he do? Because now he's done all of this to build his stability. And he thinks that, she may take him down. He wants to definitely put this prenup in place, but she will not bite. Tamika, what should he do? Should he get married? He wants to know if he should still get married to her or not.
Listen, this is one of the things, we talk about red flags, and there are some vital things that you need to ask, and find a way to do so beforehand. We're talking about mental stability, emotional, financial, spiritual, physical, all of those things you need to know. Now you're at a point where you're right at the precipice of, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think he did his due diligence. Now at this point, you should have known before then. Some things should have triggered you, the way she spends stuff, oh, I'll just put it on my credit card. Wait a minute. Didn't you just, so all of that thing, I believe that he didn't know, and now at this point, you're trying to figure out. Now you have to decide, is it worth? Because my thing is, you've done everything that you can for you to do the right thing financially. You need to be able to be paired with someone who has that same mentality. We're talking about, at this point, mental. We're also talking about financial, and that's going to drive you, physically crazy, and so it now becomes your choice. Do you want to have to struggle? You're clearly saying you don't, with the idea that you're giving her a prenuptial. So that tells you don't want to do that. So you're already making your choice as far as I'm concerned. Who wants to struggle? We just got married, and now I got to deal with my debt, your debt, and whatever else that you're going to continue on. Because if you've got that much debt, then you're still continuing to build more debt.
All right. So are you saying prenup or no?
Prenup.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Pastor KL, they say that Christian people should not be concerned about a prenup, but a financial advisor says, oh yeah, it may not be romantic, but it makes sense in certain situations, especially when there's a financial imbalance. They say if one has significant savings and the other is in major debt, a prenup is where you want to go. They say another good reason to consider a prenup is if one partner plans to stop working, or if either partner owns a business, if either one has kids from a previous relationship, or if one partner brings substantial assets into the marriage. Now, we've got all this financial advice, Pastor KL, but the Christian says we have no business chasing a prenup. It should be all about trust. What say you?
God has pity on fools and babies. Fools and babies. So if you go into this marriage already $82,000 in, you're a fool. First of all, I'm not sure if you understand, but I'm in Alabama, and the cheapest house you can get in Alabama is $200,000. The cheapest house. So now you're telling me I'm going into half of a house in debt already, and don't even have the house, living in the project, living in an apartment. So I can't even come up from this because you got me in a financial debt. Listen, prenup or no wedding. How about that? Because what I've spent is cheaper than what I'm going to lose. So I might as well run now.
Okay. Miss Willie says, I need to know in the beginning about your stability in every area of our lives, what we need to work before we say I do. All right. I'm in agreement with all of you, including Miss Willie, but here's my thing. No prenup. Don't get married. That's my thought. My thought is I don't even want to live with a prenup. My prenup was finding out if you were in debt or if you had bad spending habits. Now, listen, that can always improve, but I need to see that before we get married. Because here's the thing. So we got a prenup, right? What does that have to do with our living while we're in this marriage? What difference does that make? A prenup is only for when we decide to divorce. So now our marriage is hell because you got bad spending habits, or you've got a financial advisor that's telling you if you're marrying somebody who has children, well, boy, we'd be jacked up because most of this world has some child connected to them already. So it'd be a whole lot of prenups. My personal as a Christian advisor, no, No prenup. I think the bigger issue is what is going on with your finances. What's going on with who you are regarding your finances. I don't care about no prenup. The prenup is only going to matter when we get divorced. I don't want to see divorce. So now I'm preparing for divorce. No, I want to prepare for the marriage. So my personal advice is, I ain't got nothing to worry about no prenup. I ain't getting married to you. No, I've already seen that you jacked up. Then go ahead, spend your jacked up life. And if you manage to be able to turn around this life and you allow God to get a hold of you and you can fix your lifestyle, then we good. Now maybe we can get married. So that's my thing. I don't want no prenup. I don't want to care about all of that. All righty. This may seem a little petty to some, but it's a relationship dilemma for someone else. All right. So you've got this bride-to-be who is just about to get married, and she does not get along with her mother-in-law, has never gotten along with the mother-in-law. She says they have a very toxic relationship. Well, mom-in-law to be was over at the house, and she was about to do some gardening, the fiance, the bride to be, and she took her ring off so that she could do the gardening and her ring would not get messed up. When she came back into the house after the gardening, she found that her ring was not where she had placed it. And when she was looking for it, she looked over and saw mom-in-law to be admiring her ring. She had actually put the ring on and was admiring the ring. And when she asked her, "What are you doing with my ring on?" she said, I'm admiring it. It's beautiful. And I was checking out the diamonds. So she says, now I don't want the ring anymore. It's tainted. Someone else has had the ring on. She said, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad had it been someone who she didn't dislike. But now that it's mom-in-law to be, and mom-in-law don't mean her no good, I don't want a finger in my ring. I don't want the ring no more. I need him to buy me a brand new ring. Tamika, what we talking about here?
Yeah, she's being seriously petty, because you when you think about it, as soon as you say I do, you definitely are attached to this woman, whether you like it or not, and she is, if it hadn't been for this mother, you wouldn't have the love of your life that you're marrying. And so, you don't want her finger in your ring, and, mom is being petty and now you're going to be pettier, if worst come to worst, go get it clean and put that ring back on your finger. Stop being so petty.
Okay. Pastor KF.
I ain't buying another ring. It took my last $2 to get this ring. I'm not buying it. And because my mother put her fat finger in it, no, you gonna have a couple of seats. I'm not buying another ring. My mother's my first love. And then you came. And then you gonna want an equivalent ring or a better ring. I ain't got it. You already $82,000 in debt. You go buy the ring. I'm not doing all that. That's not gonna happen. Yeah, I don't care. It's gonna be the same woman. It's the same woman today. I'm talking about my mama.
Okay. Well, Miss Willie says, going back, yes, no marriage, no stability, unstable people are unstable in all their ways. Absolutely, Miss Willie. And that's what I'm saying. I ain't worried about no prenup. What's our marriage gonna be like? It's gonna be a mess. Because if you are in debt like that, if you're in $82,000 worth of debt, what is the other part of your life looking like? I'm with you. All righty. Miss Willie says, true diamonds can handle dirt. One doesn't like the mother, and relationship I think maturity. Alrighty. Listen, I get it. I get the fact that, you don't like mama-in-law. Y'all ain't never got along, and here it is. This is something that I treasure. It's my wedding ring. It's my engagement ring, rather. And, it's mine, and all mine. Why is your finger in my ring? Fat, skinny, beautiful, ugly, it don't matter. However, it's a ring, and you'll live. Just, you know what? Now here we go. We go back to an unstable man is unstable in all his ways. Then that means that you really can't come through my house because I can't trust you. See, there's a bigger issue here for me. I don't know about everybody else. There's a bigger issue for me. So now I can't trust you in my house. And yeah, somebody might say, well, it was only the ring, Stephanie. Yes, it was only the ring. But my thing is, what you doing in my stuff? That's the bigger issue. You don't know how to maintain boundaries. So you stay on the outside, mama, until you learn that this is my house and you need to respect my things. You stay on the outside. You pass through and just wait.
You watch your mouth. You're still talking about my mama. Watch your mouth.
Yeah,
watch your mouth.
Especially your mama. Especially your mama. If she raised you, I'm especially talking to your mama. Period. Yeah, but all jokes aside, no. If you put your hand in my ring, I'm gonna wear the ring, but I ain't gonna have to worry about you touching my dishes or nothing else. Because you just out of control. Okay. And take Miss Willie, man, we here, Miss Willie, we here. Miss Willie says boundaries, mother, boundaries. And that's the bigger issue. Absolutely. There's a bigger issue here. And that's mama don't know how to mind her business. All righty. Okay. Let's see what else is going on, Pastor KL. We got a couple of minutes here. So I'd like to see what you think about this one. All right. So there's a woman who says that she and her husband have been married for quite some time. And he has just gotten a transformation. He's lost this major amount of weight. He's putting his picture all over social media. Pretty much he's celebrating the weight loss and his new look. Now, he has shared this picture with people in social media. He used to have a job where he used to work at home. Now, if you pay attention to these little hints, everybody, you'll pick up on some things. He used to work at home, but now he's been working in an office for about 1.5 years now. He's now shared these pictures, I guess, at work. And the women at work, there are 3 women at work who she is noticing he's caught their attention. But there's one particular woman who she says she has a bad feeling about. She said this woman says that she's heard her husband. Well, she says she's heard her husband talk on the phone with this woman, and their rapport makes her feel very uncomfortable. She says that she has given birth to their second child, and so I guess she's a little uncomfortable about her own weight. She says she's checked her husband's phone and discovered so many messages between them. She said there's nothing sexual but flirty. And she says that this female coworker has even messaged comments about the husband's body after he posted gym progress photos. She said also she just gave birth to their second child. And in these messages, the woman has asked how the wife was during the pregnancy. And she says she spoke to her husband about these messages. And he told the wife that the reason why the coworker is talking to him about these things and the wife is because he always talks about the wife so much that people are now inquiring about the wife. And she wants to know if she's a little too sensitive. Pastor KL, what say you?
I think she is. I think. Listen, as a person who used to be quite large, I'm enjoying, coming down. I mean, I'm doing it for health reasons, not for, trying to be a celebrity or anything. But I'm enjoying that. I'm also enjoying the attention that I'm getting, because a lot of times, people on the outside would notice it quicker than you would notice it because you deal with it all the time. I think at this point where she just had another baby, so she might be a little fluffier than usual. So now she's a little insecure in who she is. As long as he was fat and roly-poly, she didn't have to do anything on her side because we were both fat together. You know what I mean? And now it's at a point where she's finding that other people are noticing. You know what I'm saying? He's appreciating other people noticing. You should celebrate his weight loss. And then maybe he'll get with you where you can get your weight loss together and y'all be perfect again. I can't hear you.
Brother Al, sorry, thank you. Brother Al is in the house. Brother Al. Wait, let me see if I can add you. Yes, there you go. Good morning, Brother Al.
Top of the morning, top of the morning. Hey, KL, how you doing, buddy? Everything's everything.
Good. Did you hear the last relationship dilemma, Pastor Brother Al?
Yeah, that Pastor KL was answering
Yes.
about the guy. Yes, I heard it.
Okay, so what you got for us? What say you?
Well, I agree with Pastor KL. I think what's happening is, he lost the weight, he feels good, and he's showing off. Hey, look, and again, you never know who that might minister to. Like, wow, he was big and he lost the weight. He did it. I could do it. And I think the wife is just feeling a little insecure now because, okay, you checked the messages, you didn't see nothing crazy, and he didn't get mad that you checked the message. So obviously he's not hiding anything. And I think she's just a little insecure now. Like, okay, wow, he's getting all this attention now. Maybe something going on. But he has proven to her, listen, you saw the messages. There ain't nothing crazy. She asked about you. She asked about you because I talk about you all the time. So I think she's dealing with a little insecurity right now.
Okay. Now, Serge is asking. Serge says, is this story about Pastor KL? I don't know if it's this story or the last story Serge is referring to. Serge, you're going to have to clarify that for me. Miss Willie says he is emotionally cheating.
I thought it was about me too, Serge.
Oh my goodness. I agree with Miss Willie. Yes, I agree with you guys, that, like I said, if you pay attention to some of the information she's giving, you can tell that it's an insecurity thing. Well, first of all, he's been working at home, probably working at home because he didn't like the way he looked. So that was one of the things that, kind of kept him in the house. Now that he's decided to, get his weight loss on and he's looking good, he's proud of the way he looks, and he really wants to, be out there, all that attention he's getting from the ladies, is, really, making him feel good. Now, she, on the other hand, just had a baby. So now, because she's not feeling that good, she may not be giving him the attention that he needs. Because now she's probably covering up a little bit more while he's exposing more. She's gone in the opposite direction. So now you've got some woman or some women at the job. And yeah, he's emotionally cheating and he needs to get himself together and he needs to pass on some of that motivation to the wife so that she can now, get herself together and she can feel better about herself, because, this is going to go in the wrong direction. It's only going to be so much longer that he's emotionally cheating. That's not going to stop. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. So, pass some of that encouragement on to your wife, and one of you, guys said it, now y'all can work on this together. And now y'all can be wonderful, look great together. All righty. Serge says the story about the guy losing weight. So Pastor KL did answer you already. We got one more dilemma that we have. So let's see what we're talking about here. Okay, all right. I like this one. It says, when my first wife and I were in our early 20s, she left me for another man. It was difficult, but I worked through. I got remarried a few years later. All right. Here it is, 46 years later. And my ex-wife thought it would be a good idea to try to connect through social media. I knew how to find her if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with the memory. I made the mistake of replying, and unfortunately, that just egged her on to respond even more and more. Now she wants to explain why she left me all those years ago. And I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to listen to her excuses. I'm not interested. I don't want to bring back any of that pain. I think that I'm still dealing with some of the pain even after all this time. And I really would rather her leave it alone. Brother Al, should he allow her to explain, and get out what actually happened back then when she walked off from him and left him for another man? Or should he, just kind of push her to the side and tell her, hey, go about your business. It's been 46 years. I'm all right. Leave me alone.
I think he should hear out. And the reason I say that is because, listen to you read it, he did say he's still dealing with some of the pain. So why not? Okay, it's 46 years later, but you're still dealing with some of the pain. So why not? Okay, let me hear what you had to say. Maybe that might fix everything for him on that end of dealing with the pain. Me, I'm nosy. I want to know. I don't care how long it was. Yeah, back in 1976, you left me. Why? What happened? I'm just nosy. So I want to know. But because he said he's still dealing with some pain from it, I think he should hear her out then. Being that you still. Now, if he wasn't dealing with no pain with it or whatever, don't worry about it. It's a long time ago. Take care.
Okay. Pastor KL, what say you?
Well, did you say it was 46 years?
Yes, I did.
How long does it take to heal? I mean, at this point, I mean, 46 years. I would have had like 9 or 10 different relationships by then. I would have got over you really, really quick. I think it's a point of she needs closure, not me. You know what I mean? If this is what you decided to do 46 years, you should have closed that book by yourself. I'm not going to entertain that anymore. I'm just not going to do that. Whatever I swept under the rug, I'm not lifting up the furniture to see it. It's under the rug.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm a part of me thinks like Brother Al is thinking. Pastor KL said, hey, what seems to be your problem? You should have healed already. And Ms. Willie says, maybe he will heal from his pain. Yes, I would want to know. Excuses are lies, Pastor. She's broken. Okay. I agree. I want to know. I don't care, how long it's been. And here's the thing, Pastor KL, you said that he should have healed already. At his own admittance, he hasn't pretty much healed. He said he still feels the pain. And sometimes after we hear things, and 46 years later, it may not heal anything. But listen, it can't hurt. 46 years, you still feeling pain? It could very well answer to some of that, healing some of that pain. I don't know. But you know what? If you're still in pain, then go ahead and let the whole thing out. Then you might as well go ahead and talk, let it out, go ahead and say what you got to say, and then we can really both move on. Because clearly, he has not completely moved on. He said a few years after she left him, he got remarried. Let me tell you something. It may have taken a few more years for him to be by himself, and maybe he would have been healed. So you're right, Pastor KL. Had he done it in the beginning better, maybe 46 years down the line, he still wouldn't be feeling no pain. But because we just got to move, because I feel a little bit better if, I get married or get remarried, then, I can move on. And a lot of times, because we've moved on, does not mean we have emotionally or mentally moved on. And here is the evidence. 46 years later, she ain't moved on, and neither have you. So y'all might as well go ahead and you might as well sit still, hear this explanation. Maybe it might do something for you. Maybe it won't. But listen, it can't hurt at this point. Meet with your wife. I don't know. But just talk. Listen to her. I don't know. Yes, I agree. Terry says he agrees with Pastor KL. And Miss Willie said he married to mask the pain. I agree. That's what I'm saying. He got married. He said, yeah, a few years later, I got married. No, he wasn't ready to get married. He just did that so he could get over, quote unquote, the rejection that he had just experienced. And here it is 46 years later, he ain't over it. So, you know what? That proves that he just been masking the pain. So you've been with somebody else for 46 years and you still hurt by somebody before that person? That means that you ain't never healed from the first go round. All righty. My due time crew, thank you so much for your contribution into today's conversation. Oh, wait, Tamika, I didn't know you were there. Go ahead and give your opinion. Did you hear the scenario?
I did. You kind of got me.
Okay.
In that, I do tune into what Willie was saying. If you got married right away, 9 times out of 10, you were just trying to fix that hurt. Some people do it in sexual. You go from person to person to person. What he did was he married somebody else. And never really got full closure. And what he needed was the closure. And it's clearly if after 46 years you done all kinds of stuff, probably had children, all kinds of things have happened. If after 46 years you still have that pain, then you need to open up just the opportunity to see what she has to say, even if it's foolishness. At least you'll know, and that will be able to prayerfully help you heal. The sad part about it is if you find out more information and how traumatic it might have been, or what type of person she was, then you really realize, hey, it wasn't me, it was her. She had issues all along, and so again, that's another venue where you can get yourself healed. Whether you're 25 or 95, being healed is so paramount to everything else. You can live your life better because now you're in the know. Absolutely.
I agree. Thank you so much. All right, my due time crew. Thank you so much for your contribution in today's conversation, and we pray you have a blessed day.
Amen. You as well.
Thank you. Okay. Terrence says, also, what if he's in a relationship now and she came back after these many years? I don't know if I want, or if there may be closure, because it can mess up your present relationship. Possibility. Definitely a possibility, Terrence. And Miss Willie says, birthing situations out of pain. Dangerous, I think. Absolutely, because how much are you really into that relationship? Ooh. All righty. Boy, nice conversation. All right, it's the top of the hour on a Monday morning, and we know what goes down here. Let's say good morning to Shantice with the switch with Shantice.
Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning, Shantice.
How are you? How was your weekend?
Nice, thank you. Very nice, thank you. How was yours?
Fine, thank you.
Good. You know what I like to ask you? What you got for us today?
Today, I have the switch with Shantice, where we make the switch from the streets to our godly seed, and we are up to switch tip 223, which is recognize God. Now, y'all know we got to pull out the definitions, y'all. Come on. Recognize, identify someone or something from having encountered them before. Know again, acknowledge the existence, validity, or legality of. And there was a staple verse that I'm going to read because it's part of the verses that God ensured that I included this morning. That really stood out to me. That was embedded in my head. And, I'm thinking about all of the people that God is entrusting me to minister to. All of the people God is entrusting me to share my testimony with. And I've gotten to where I was already open. God already had me open, but I've become a little more transparent than I was before. And for the people who know me, it's like, well, how transparent are you getting? Because you was already telling pretty much all your business. But I'm really seeing the importance of sharing our testimony. And even with me sharing the word of God in a very practical way, one of the things I love about God is he doesn't have everyone sharing the gospel the same way. He is conforming the gospel to fit your personality. It does not mean he's changing anything. It is the same message. Jesus saves. It's the same intricate details that lead to Jesus saves, that each of us, whether you have a clergy title behind your name or not, but once you say yes to the Lord, and especially once you get baptized, you get sent out to the ravenous wolves to be on point, to be sober-minded, to be vigilant, and to share the gospel along with your testimony that then leads right back to the gospel. And he has me sharing his word in a very practical, down-to-earth manner. Meanwhile, people still ain't getting it. And what I'm noticing is it's not because they don't have the ability to get it, because one of the things that God has said in his word, and he reminds me of, even when he's talking to me about how slow I be acting sometimes, I don't present anything to you, Shantice, or I'm not presenting anything to anyone else who does not have the capability of grasping, comprehending, understanding what I'm giving to them. So all of us who like to act slow, like we're not getting it, we're not tricking God, because he already knows what we're able to absorb, what we're able to take in, and what we can't fathom. Okay, which is why if you're just getting the word now, it's because you didn't have the capacity, and it's no shade, it is what it is. You didn't have the capacity of understanding it now. But when we think about recognizing God, when we think about identifying him, because we've been able to look at the fireworks, look at the fireworks, Pastor Steph. God's serious about this thing. When you get to where you've encountered God, encountered Jesus before, and right now it's giving me the visual of when Paul encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus. You can hear from him again. You know when it's him, because there's only three voices that could be talking to you: God, your flesh, or the devil. You'll be able to discern which voice is speaking to you. When you're talking about knowing again, when you're talking about acknowledging the existence, acknowledging how valid, how true, how real God is, how real Jesus is, you're able to get that. But it's a very scary thing when you're able to do it, but you're hardening your heart to where you're acting like you can't, because there are some people who really, God chooses who he wants to share himself with. Do we understand that? I just need us to pause for like 5 seconds and really grasp that, because anyone who's hearing that has the ability to understand that God literally, and he does not have favorites. At the same time, he chooses who he shares himself with and when. Pastor Steph always says, do you really want to be that one who only gets to say yes to God and experience him on your deathbed when you literally got maybe 5 minutes left to live on this earth? Or do you want to be able to experience him in totality, like when Jesus says, I don't just give you life, but life abundantly? There's many levels to this thing. We got to be careful. John 10:24-27 in the Amplified Version reads, so the Jews surrounded him and began saying to him, how long are you going to keep us in suspense? If you are really the Christ, the Messiah, the anointed, tell us so plainly and openly. Jesus answered them, I have told you so, yet you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify concerning me. They are my credentials and the evidence declaring who I am. But you do not believe me, so you do not trust and follow me, because you are not my sheep. The sheep that are my own hear my voice and listen to me. I know them and they follow me. Now, it doesn't mean those of us who are the sheep don't bump our heads. We don't make mistakes. However, we can identify him. We don't have to keep asking Jesus to keep showing us, show us this miracle, show us that miracle, because we already have walked into the validity of who Jesus and God are, who they are. We already know who they are. So when Jesus comes and he speaks to us, those of us who have heard him audibly before, when he speaks to us through the Holy Spirit, we don't have to keep asking him to break certain things down in certain ways. We don't have to keep asking for the wonders, because even in the little things, we see the wonders. We got to pay attention and we got to be careful, because when you keep questioning God in certain ways, and that was a switch tip a few years ago, got to be careful. John 5:25 Amplified Version reads, and these are words that came out of Jesus's mouth yet again. I assure you and most solemnly say to you, a time is coming and is here now when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear it will live. That doesn't only mean the literal dead. That means those of us who are the walking dead. And I remember the very first time Pastor Steph broke that down, and I was like, wow. And if you read Revelations, I'm forgetting the chapter specifically, but I will post it. Pastor Steph, please remind me to post it on your Facebook page, where Jesus had the angels write to the 7 churches, and to one church he said, I see your efforts, I see your work, you're alive, but you're still dead. You try to act like you're alive in your pursuits and in your work, but you're still dead. You don't want to be the walking dead. But God is still amazing, and he shows so much grace, mercy, and love, because even while we're the walking dead, those of us who are his sheep are still able to hear and recognize his voice. We're still able to identify him visually when we belong to him. 1 Corinthians 1:18 Amplified Version reads, for the message of the cross is foolishness, absurd, and illogical to those who are perishing and spiritually dead, because they reject it. But to us who are being saved by God's grace, it is the manifestation of the power of God. And there goes the stamp again right there. When we choose to harden our hearts, we try to cut ourselves off from being his sheep. We cannot hear and recognize him. So let's make sure we are making a conscious decision of making the switch from hardening our hearts, choosing to be slow, choosing not to recognize God, because we're not going to get better in life without recognizing him, and making sure that we are keeping our eyes and our ears and our hearts open to recognize God, in everything he's showing us. Thank you, Pastor Steph.
Thank you, Shantice. Thank you. The title of your switch tip again?
Recognize God. Just 2 words this week. 2 words.
Wow. Big stuff. Thank you so much. And we thank you for your contribution. And we pray you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. All right, let's get this benediction. Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing through the experience of your faith, that by the power of the Holy Spirit, you will abound in hope and overflow with confidence in his promises. Amen. Amen and amen. Listen, don't you love God, who always reveals himself? Always. I quote this scripture all the time. God says, by the time I wrap up this earth, everybody would have had an opportunity to see who I am and say yes. You know, God says, I love everybody. I want to see anyone perish. So you know he's going to make himself. He's going to reveal himself to everybody, because if not, how would everybody get an opportunity to say yes? So, you know, we're looking at these, you know, relationship dilemmas. We're looking at life's dilemmas. And, you know, I always say for some of these dilemmas, it's like, well, where's the dilemma? Because some of these things is like, okay, well, I already know what to do. You know, what's the big deal? Why is this a dilemma? Why is this a big thing for you? And that's because we're people. And we are going to be who we are. And there are going to be things that we're just going to have to work through. And there are going to be other things that we got just like that. But regardless of either side of this, we all need God. We all need God. We cannot make it. We may think we're making it, and we're not. It doesn't work like that. In the beginning of this show, we got our PSA about, smoking and, detox and things like that. And, I came back and I said, I found out years ago that when it comes to smoking, the day you stop smoking, your body begins to heal itself. Well, guess what? That's God doing the healing. That's his body. He's doing the healing. Well, what do you think happens when we give our lives to the Lord? There's a healing that begins to take place. Some of the healing we're going to be able to detect, and some of the healing we're not going to be able to detect. Yeah, the Bible says that we are renewed on the inside every day. And there are things that are going on with us that we don't even realize. It's almost like having surgery. You just wake up one day and you're just like better. You're better than you was 5 weeks ago, better than you were 6 weeks ago. You're better. But that's a healing that took place that you have no idea. You weren't feeling every bit of that. There were certain things that you were like, oh, I'm feeling a little better. But there are other things that are going on that you have absolutely no idea that's taking place. They said that it takes 4 whole years. 4. There we go. 4 whole years for a woman's body to go back to its original state after she gives birth. Now, everybody's body does not have that same original state, but it takes 4 years. Think about back to back children. What does your body go through? And what do you think we're putting our lives through? What do you think we're putting our bodies through? Well, instead of us allowing, we just got finished talking about one of the relationship situations where, he got married a few years later. Well, he did that, like Miss Willie said, and like Tamika said, to mask what he was really feeling. And that's why here it is 46 years later, she wants to talk and he still feels some level of pain. That's because the healing hadn't been done. And it takes time. It takes time. Get to know who God is. Allow him to do that perfect work in your life. You will not regret it. Let God heal you. All of these dilemmas, there was some healing that was needed. Even the woman with the ring, so my mother-in-law put my ring on. I don't want to wear the ring no more. That's because she's not healed from the hurt of this woman. So to the degree that I don't even want you putting your hand in my ring. And if you did, my ring is now tainted. That's because there's no healing. You'd be surprised what we actually need to heal from. Put your life in God's hands and allow him to do the healing, because you can't heal you. And if we do not position ourselves, there will be no healing, or there will not be as much healing as there could be unless we put our lives in the hands of God. Make sure you give your life to God in so many ways, because we definitely need to be renewed every day. And we need to be able to see and feel some of that renewing. Okay? Or renewal, whichever way you want to put it. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They will only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew for always coming through big time. Thank you for hanging out with us and keeping that chat room live, helping us with that conversation. I love conversing with you all. Please, please, please don't miss this opportunity to give Christ your life right now. Please do not miss this opportunity to strengthen that relationship with the Lord right now, because later is not promised to any of us. Until tomorrow, God spares, where it's Let's Talk About It Tuesday Church Folk Day. Until then, I love you.